Welcome to Pop-O-Holics, the show about hot takes. Hotter than hot, tasty pancakes. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm joined as always by my two bestest of buds.
Chris Conkling.
And Brian Dupree.
And oh my goodness, do we have just a little spicy episode for you today. If you're just tuning in, this is the weekly upload. What we do here, we talk about the latest in pop culture. News, what's coming out, what we've been consuming, and we have some community feedback. We also have a special ending, a new way we're going to end the shows, which is ending with Christian's TikTok of the week. It's been voted in, boys. More to come on community feedback. We'll make sure to read the email in full. But someone has responded. We do have listeners, which is great. But yeah, this is the weekly upload. As you can see, I got some other people. It's not just me. Over on our main topic episode, we're talking all Taika Waititi. I think a guy who's just going to keep going up in popularity. I think everybody's going to love this guy, and they can't wait to give him a Star Wars. But we're doing all Taika Waititi for the month of July. Hey there, July. What's it like in Taika Waititi month?
Hey there, Delilah. What's it like in Taika Waititi?
I will say, I like your new shirt, Christian, and I appreciate it, but throwing off the plain white tee run. So
this is true. Where's the plain white tee?
Well, that's because after we're done recording this for Wednesday's episode on our main topic episode, we're going to be recording Thor: Love and Thunder. So this is a little tribute to the...
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Oh, well, you should watch it before the end of us recording this part of the show.
Oh, okay.
So
I'll get on that.
We're excited to bring that to you. Let's delay no further. Brian's Wacky News Corner.
Start on wacky, start on wacky. Start on wacky, Welcome back, everyone. So... as of recording, within the last couple of days, the first trailer for Clerks 3 has just arrived. We've done a Kevin Smith month on the podcast before. We are fans of his to varying degrees here.
It was Christian's favorite month, for the record.
100%. He's just egging us on to go back constantly. We need to cover more Kevin Smith. This is what Christian wants. And so I had to bring up this piece of news. Clerks 3, the trailer dropped. This is, as Jay and Silent Bob Reboot was the last movie he put out, which Kevin Smith suffered from a serious heart attack, near fatal heart attack that he survived from, kind of went through a whole lifestyle change, came back and made Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and now has come back to make Clerks 3 as well, definitely digging back into some of the legacy View Askew universe stuff here. And as with Kevin Smith, constantly doing meta stuff, we have a very meta comedy here where Randall has a heart attack, decides to stop just talking about movies and make a movie about his life, which is functionally the movie Clerks, which Kevin Smith made and released in 1994. So it's a movie about the making of Clerks, starring our main characters from
Never
Clerks.
since Buzz Lightyear
has there been a more convoluted explanation for a film?
It's actually the movie that Kevin Smith saw in the View Askew universe that made him make Clerks.
Inspired him to make, yes. I gotta say, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot kind of got trashed by a lot of people, but this is a movie that I kind of come back to like comfort food. I've watched it probably 3 times total, counting the first time I saw it. And it's just something I can very easily throw on. And that gives me consistent fun laughs throughout the course of it, even though it's not the greatest movie of all time by any stretch. It gave me what I was looking for from that point in my life with Kevin Smith and him doing the reboot thing. Same thing here. I think Clerks 2 was one of the ones that we all kind of agreed is one of the better Kevin Smith movies.
It's one of his best. Mm-hmm.
So coming back to these characters, I'm very hopeful. Doing this meta element, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Chris, let's start with you. What did you think of the Clerks 3 trailer?
Good choice, Brian. Brian, I feel so similarly to you. And just like you said, I'm so glad you pointed out that you come back to Kevin Smith's films Jay & Silent Bob reboot specifically kind of like comfort food, because I feel that way about his entire View Askewniverse catalog. You know, regardless of how people feel about those movies, all those movies were incredibly important to me growing up and shaped me during my teenage years. So whenever I watch them, there is this sense of like going home or consuming comfort food, or this sense of coziness. So for that reason, I appreciate everything that Kevin Smith has done over the course of his career. And as you mentioned, we were all very high on Clerks 2. I think Clerks 2, Clerks, and Chasing Amy are probably his 3 strongest works. And I'm down for the meta storytelling that we'll be seeing in Clerks 3. I think it's funny that Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is the film that Kevin Smith made because of his heart attack. He just wanted to kind of hang out with his friends and make another movie. But now he's going like a level deeper, where Clerks 3, as you said, is essentially Randall is a stand-in for Kevin Smith making a movie because he had a near-death experience. So now he's making essentially Clerks in the quick stop with Dante and Jay and Silent Bob. And I think it's going to be really fun, to be perfectly honest. I've seen some tweets from Kevin Smith and some photos that he's taken from behind the scenes during the shoot. And he said that they literally were using HBO Max during the shoot to look at Clerks and some of the screenshots from Clerks to try and replicate certain shots from the original movie. So I think if you've been a longtime fan of Kevin Smith and you have a similar...
of the movie.
I mean, I'm assuming that it was easier. I'm assuming it was easier on set just to pick, because it's a picture of his phone with the Clerks movie on it. As I was saying, though, I think if you're a fan of Kevin Smith, I think if you have similar feelings about his films to Brian and myself, I think there is a lot people are going to enjoy about Clerks 3. And considering that Clerks 2 was so good, I am incredibly excited for Clerks 3. Christian, how do you feel about Clerks 3?
I heard a rumor that he was going on the /film website to look up his leaked script when he forgot to bring the script to work to help him remember.
Oh boy,
what the
spiciness starts early for the film.
He's actually calling Chris for a printed out copy of that script.
No. Can you send me my leaked script of Clerks 3?
No, I'm gonna be honest. I really like this trailer. I think obviously everybody looks a bit older, but I thought it brought back all the feelings of
how dare them?
How dare they age in real time?
I thought it brought back a lot of the feelings of Kevin Smith's entire career, and I didn't actually watch the trailer, but what I can say is,
you're joking, but I do want to say this. Out of all of them, Kevin Smith looks the healthiest compared to what he looked like in the 90s in Clerks 2.
He's had a bit of a lifestyle.
Jay and Slimmer Bob.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, listen, I don't love Kevin Smith. I am a defender of Kevin Smith's later work. I like Kevin Smith's later work more than I think Kevin Smith's fans like. Like, I like Red State and I like the Walrus movie.
Basically everything outside of the View Askewniverse Christian likes.
Yeah, so I don't know. And I'm in a weird spot, but it could be fun. Hopefully we get some woman performing fellatio on some crazy animal because that's what we're all looking forward to.
Or a man.
And anybody.
A man performing that act on some type of animal.
Or if it's a small donkey that performs oral on a large man, would also be acceptable.
That would be a twist.
So I'm sure there's lots of good stuff in store. Now, Chris, I'm going to see the things happening aside. We do have tickets to go see this movie. You're forced. I have not seen Jay and Silent Bob Return. If you could give me a copy of that, I'll watch it. But that's
all right. We'll figure out how to get you to see it.
I have a copy. I'll have to mail it to you or something. Yeah. But yeah, speaking of tickets, I have mine as well. There's only going to be 2 showings of this on 2 nights this year, September 13th and 15th, at approximately 700 theaters, I think. Not sure if they're going to do a wide release. I know last time it was kind of a roadshow release they did.
Kevin Smith will be going on the Clerks 3 convenience tour.
Okay.
So he will be doing a road show, and those will be additional showings to the dates that Brian just mentioned. I believe there are 19 dates currently listed on the website, but during San Diego Comic-Con, they're going to release a couple more. As of right now, because I checked, we, not to dox us, but like we're in Florida somewhere. There are no showings of the convenience store in Florida at this time. But a lot of West Coast showings right now if you're on the West Coast of the United States.
Hard to do a logical loop in Florida. You kind of have to backtrack.
It's true.
Adds a lot of days to your trip. Very expensive. But, that being said, I appreciate how it's being released. Obviously, it's probably going to be like NC-17 or like not even get a rating. So that's probably why he's not doing like a wide release, right?
None of his films have ever gotten NC-17 officially.
Okay.
So it's probably going to be R.
Okay. But I appreciate that.
I would assume.
It's probably because it's crazy to think that Kevin Smith can't widely release a movie independently, but maybe that's part of the studio system. But I appreciate it being like there being like a eventfulness to the release, which is cool.
Lionsgate did pick it up, and they are going to be releasing it, I believe. So who's to say?
Yeah, but it's not
type of
releasing like
not a wide release. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Clerks 3. Pre-sale tickets are available now for the Fathom event for September 13th and 15th. And as Chris said, there will be a road show that's happening throughout the country. So stay tuned for that as well.
And Brian and I are going to be forcing Christian to review this movie, whether he wants to or not.
Thanks.
We're going to have a great time.
Thank you.
So the next piece of news, we just did a Jurassic June month last month for Jurassic World Dominion. And DeWanda Wise, who was a new addition to the cast in Jurassic World Dominion, has joined Chris Pine's directorial debut, Poolman. So she joins a cast that already includes Chris Pine himself, Annette Bening, Danny DeVito, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. All-star cast here. Pine's directing from a script that he co-wrote with Ian Gottler, and he plays Darren Barronman, a hapless dreamer and would-be philosopher who spends his days looking after the pool of a Tahitian tiki apartment block in sunny Los Angeles and crashing city council meetings with his neighbors. He uncovers the greatest water heist in LA since Chinatown, and he makes uneasy alliances with a beautiful and connected femme fatale while following leads throughout the city. Poolman, I'm not sure if we had talked about this before with Chris Pine's directorial debut. I think it had been a little while if we had. This movie, when you're comparing something to Chinatown, this is one of the great movies.
That's a high bar.
It's a very high bar. So I wouldn't expect it to be on that level. But that sort of movie seeming to go back to like LA crime noir, kind of like hard-boiled detective kind of story.
In premise alone, I think it is similar.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So this is something that I'm interested in. I think DeWise was one of the better elements, a good new addition to Jurassic World Dominion. I hadn't seen her in much else prior, but I'm actually excited about this movie and looking forward to seeing what Chris Pine can do behind the camera, obviously in front of the camera as well here. How do you guys feel about Chris Pine breaking into direction as well as DeWanda Wise joining this cast?
I, like you, am very interested in this project. I like that kind of noir LA vibe when it comes to movies. One of my favorite movies is Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, the Shane Black film. I believe Nice Guys takes place. Shane Black in general, Nice Guys takes place in LA as well.
Yeah.
But those movies are always a lot of fun. As you mentioned, I'm not super familiar with DeWanda Wise's other work outside of Jurassic World Dominion. And while I absolutely hated that movie, she was, as Brian mentioned, the shining element of that film.
Her breakout role, just from the article we posted here, she was in the Netflix series adaptation of She's Gotta Have It, which is based off of the Spike Lee movie, obviously.
Thank you. But yeah, I think this will be cool. Christian, what about you?
I think Chris Pine has a long hill to climb. I didn't mean to rhyme. I'm sorry. I'm taking up too much time.
Oh, how long can he keep it going?
Not on purpose. I've crossed a line. He's too handsome to be behind the camera, you see. It's not right. Someone that handsome should be in the spotlight and not behind those shining lights. Listen,
Dr. Seuss.
directors are very
Bit of slant rhyme there at the end.
directors are very smart looking, but not handsome. I think he's too handsome. I disagree with this project's premise entirely.
But does he make a good pool man?
You know, that's yet to be determined. No, I hope it's good.
I think based on looks alone, he's going to be a great pool man.
I think he could pull the pool man off at least.
He can pull the pool man, for sure.
Great at pulling the pool man off.
That's a different movie that he didn't direct, but he does star in. Also high quality.
Chris Pinecone Pine. No, I like Chris Pine. You know, he's really great in that Highway to Hell movie. Is that what it's called? It had a really
Hell or High Water.
Hell or High Water.
Great movie.
Great movie and great title. For some reason, I thought it was called Hell or High Road. I was like, that's a bad title because that's not the name of the movie. Very great, and he's great in it. He's worked with a lot of great directors. I'm sure some of that's rubbed off on the old Pullman. So we shall see how it plays out. And DeWanda Wise was great in Jurassic World Dominion. Haven't seen her in anything else, but she was.
Now he's rubbing off on pool man. Come on.
Yeah. Got to get some chlorine for that bad boy.
Yeah. That is Pool Man. DeWanda Wise has been cast in Chris Pine's directorial debut. I was going to keep it going.
I saw it in your head.
Kristen and I always bringing the highest brow humor to the internet.
I started making a Dr. Seuss book when I started, and it was a complete accident, I swear on my life.
So yeah, that's Chris Pine's directorial debut, Pool Man. Moving on to something that we've kind of talked about a bit before, but the Russo brothers, Matt and Ross, we'll get to the Russo brothers. The Duffer brothers, Matt and Ross Duffer, have unveiled plans for a few of the projects that is a part of their giant Netflix deal. We have a Stranger Things spinoff show that we don't really have many details about. We also have a stage play, a Stranger Things adaptation that I got to imagine. I know, a stage play. We can maybe talk about a little bit about this in our Thor: Love and Thunder review, but seeing what a stage play of Stranger Things would be like, I'm not sure I have the highest hopes for what makes that show good. But there's also an adaptation of Stephen King and Peter Straub's The Talisman, as well as a live action anime show, Death Note. We also have a series from the creators of Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, the sequel series to the Dark Crystal, or the prequel series, I believe, to the Dark Crystal movie, from Jeffrey Addis and Will Matthews. So the Duffer brothers, I'll talk about Stranger Things, my opinions on the latest season in a little bit on this episode, but I'm excited that these guys in their production company is getting a chance to tell different stories. Obviously, Stranger Things, one of the surprise smash hits for Netflix, was one of the things that made it must-have streamers, which we've talked about this before. So it makes sense that we get a couple of spinoffs. The stage play, like we said, we'll see how that goes with a show that's so supernatural and action horror. Obviously, you're going to have to focus more on the character stuff here, which there is good character stuff in this show. So I think it could work. But these other projects as well, I think very much fit in the wheelhouse, getting into Stephen King with The Talisman. And there's a reference to The Talisman in Stranger Things season 4 as well as working with the people behind the Dark Crystal, these supernatural fantasy stories. I think this is very much in their wheelhouse, and they've shown that they can creatively get behind this sort of projects and make these things work. Are any of these standing out to you guys as something that you'd be interested in with the Duffers being involved? Chris, what do you think about this?
I think the most interesting thing that they're currently developing is probably the Talisman adaptation. And that's mostly because I know it's a Stephen King work, but it's also going to be co-produced by Amblin Entertainment. Steven Spielberg has had the option for The Talisman for quite a long time. And it's been a movie that a book that they've been trying to adapt for many, many years. So I think, the Duffer brothers, what they've done with Stranger Things, last week I mentioned how jealous I am of their creativity. And I think they're perfectly aligned to adapt something like this. In the THR article that we're referencing, and we'll have it in our show notes, It says the Duffers say Upside Down Pictures will aim to create the kind of stories that inspired them growing up. Stories that take place at the beautiful crossroads where the ordinary meets the extraordinary, where big spectacle coexists with intimate character work, and where heart wins out over cynicism. And I have to say, these are the types of storytelling narratives that I'm totally in for. So I'm very excited to see what they do with their production company. I question why Stranger Things stage play needs to exist. Hopefully it doesn't end up being like the Spider-Man Broadway play. We'll see how that turns out.
So,
but a lot of interesting
Chris,
things taking place here.
Definitely. As you mentioned, their production company is going to be headed by Hilary Levitt, who is best known for helping develop Orphan Black, which is
another incredibly popular show,
but very popular, as well as she was involved with Ozark, The Great on Hulu, and Apple's Shining Girls most recently.
A lot of successes.
A lot of strong stuff under her belt as well. Christian, any of this? I know you haven't finished Stranger Things at this point, obviously. Do you feel like these guys and their production company have something to offer Netflix here?
Certainly. They make competent television. I really like the 2 seasons of Stranger Things that I've seen, so it's not from a lack of not liking their stuff. I do think it's interesting that they made an original IP that was inspired by a bunch of the stuff they're now being asked to just remake. So does that make me upset about the death of creativity? A little bit. I am most excited for the stage play because because I think Stranger Things could work in a stage play. I could totally see it, and it could be really cool. And there needs to be more theater in everybody's life. I love the theater. I grew up doing stage plays, so I'm a big fan of them. I don't get to see as much. It's a very like exclusive kind of event thing that you get to see because it's just so rare. It's just not very common to see good theater. So I think it could be really cool. That actually makes me the most excited because it's based on the IP they made, not all the stuff that inspired them that they're now remaking, which could be cool.
It's going to be kind of experimental too, because everyone in the audience will be in a sensory deprivation tank. So it's going to be kind of an interesting experience there.
Joe Rogan's going to fucking love
it's
this.
incredibly difficult to convey ideas to those in sensory deprivation tanks when they're not technically able to experience anything. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they make this work.
So yeah, that is the Duffer Brothers, part of a 9-figure Netflix deal. They have a bunch of stuff in development. Definitely check out the article for some more specifics.
The Duffer Brothers are having a good day.
They're doing well.
I also want to point out, and we didn't talk about this, but in the article it also mentions that they made a 9-figure deal with Netflix, and that those types of numbers are just astonishing to me. 9 figures.
Impressive.
Good for them.
Yeah, I mean, they have approximately like 1,000 less figures working at the company now, so they freed up some capital.
Oh my God. I mean, you're not wrong. To be clear, I believe the deal was struck prior to all of those layoffs.
Plus, you got it's 2 brothers, so technically it's like 6
Gotta
figures.
split that, yeah.
That combine into 9.
It's chump change at that point.
I could not accurately do the math in my head about how many figures it would be split between 2. Putting it at a base level 9-figure, it got a little tricky, but I guessed at 6. Mathematicians, come at me.
Moving into some stuff that's coming out this week, a show that...
You didn't have an answer. You're the most math-centric person. If you split 9 figures in half at the base 9 figures, how many figures is it?
I'm not sure.
Let's say the deal is for $100 million. Split it in half. It's now an 8-figure salary.
I fucked up.
There you go.
You're like, I don't want to answer this because I'm going to make
here.
you seem very stupid. So I'm refused. I'm going to take it that you're just trying to be a good friend.
We'll cut it out.
Stays in.
Moving into what's coming out this week, this Tuesday on FX, we have season 4 of What We Do in the Shadows premiering. This is a show that Chris and I have been following for a while, big fans of the first 3 seasons. And it's based on the movie by Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement, and the TV show was developed by Clement himself. It has 10 Emmy nominations at this point, has already been greenlit for seasons 5 and 6, even though season 4 is just now coming out. And it stars Matt Berry, Natasha Dimitru, Mark Prosh, Kevin Novak, and Harvey Guillen as some of them are vampires. One of them isn't, who are flatmates and all of the ridiculous and silly things that they get into. This is a mockumentary style of show for those unfamiliar. The movie is incredible. The show is nearly on the same level. And consistently hilarious. I think season 2 is probably my favorite front to back at this point, but this is one that has become can't miss television. These characters are so hilarious. And apparently where we ended off in season 3 is very quickly, we very quickly go back to kind of the status quo, apparently, judging by the trailer.
Yeah, based on the trailers.
Yeah. But yeah, What We Do in the Shadows season 4, Chris, what are you excited for this one?
I'm so excited, Brian. This, like you said, is one of those shows that my wife and I come back to every single year. It's one of our favorite shows. I can't wait. It's just going to be more mockumentary, supernatural goodness, and I'm here for it.
Heck yeah. So that's What We Do in the Shadows, season 4. That'll be on FX this Tuesday. Moving on, we have coming out this Thursday to Netflix, we have a Resident Evil series that is premiering. The summary of this show: 14 years after a deadly virus caused a global apocalypse, Jade Wesker fights for survival in a world overrun by infected creatures while being haunted by her past, her father, and what happened to her sister, Billy. This is based on the video game series. It's called the 8th live action adaptation after the original film series, the same name. They've done a lot of reboots of this at this point.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, they're not all connected, though.
They are not all connected. We just had Welcome to Raccoon City come out last year, which didn't do incredibly well, but I was a decently big fan of. Here, we seem to be kind of resetting again. Although in this universe, the Umbrella Corporation, it's already known that they kind of were corrupted and were doing messed up things. And there's a new Umbrella Corporation that presumably is going to do more messed up things here.
Of course, the Jurassic Park problem.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. This stars Lance Reddick, Ella Balinska, Tamara Smart, and many others, and it's developed by Andrew Dabb. We've talked a good deal about Resident Evil before. Christian, I know you're a big fan of Resident Evil 4, the video game. I don't think this one is going to be very explicitly pulled from the mainline stories from the original games, like Welcome to Raccoon City was. But conceptually, Resident Evil TV show, this looks like it's almost more so trying to do like a Walking Dead style show, maybe a little different sort of zombie show compared to other Resident Evil stuff. But what do you think conceptually about a series following this?
Did you say that it's based more on Resident Evil 4?
It's not. I was just saying that I know you're a fan of Resident Evil 4. This is based on the series, but I think it's going to be a new story.
Well, that's what would be interesting, because the zombies in Resident Evil 4 are actually different than the zombies from the other ones. It's like the virus develops more, and they're more like parasites that have taken over, and they are like, I mean, they're still slow zombies. They're always slow zombies in Resident Evil, but when you shoot their heads off, these tentacles appear out. So if they go in that direction, that's much more terrifying and an elevation, I think, of the zombie genre, and that's ultimately what I find really intriguing about the fourth Resident Evil entry. The only thing that gets me excited about this show, the only thing, is Lance Reddick, because that man is awesome. He's awesome in The Wire. He's great in John Wick. He's great in everything I've seen him in, and I just want to hear him say, like, "We have got to kill these zombies in their head." You know, I just want to hear that low, beautiful, low register voice talk about killing zombies. So that'll be very exciting to see. Yeah, I'll probably watch the preview on Netflix, like the thing that happens right before you hit play. And
right.
you listen, people that are
Random
behind
scene.
that shit on Netflix, that's going to be what makes or break me hitting play on the first episode. Because if it looks like trash, it better just be Lance Reddick saying something like that. Because if it is, I'm like, that's exactly what I wanted. And
Give it to me.
Yeah, so there's some marketing info for you. But yeah, Lance Reddick is cool.
Definitely. That's Resident Evil series that is premiering this Thursday on Netflix. Moving into some movies that are coming out this week. Coming to theaters, we have Where the Crawdads Sing this Friday. So this is directed by Olivia Newman from a screenplay by Lucy Alibar, and it is based on the book of the same name by Delia Owens. It stars Daisy Edgar Jones, Taylor John Smith, Harris Dickinson, and many more. And the plot is abandoned as a girl, Kaya raised herself in the dangerous marshlands of North Carolina. For years, rumors of the marsh girl haunted Barkley Cove, isolating the sharp and resilient Kaya from her community. Drawn to two young men from town, she opens herself up to a new and startling world. This plot summary gives very little away. I think our main character kind of gets potentially caught up in a crime/death, and the town turns on her, and she kind of has to potentially prove her innocence, but definitely get away from the town that has never accepted her. I hadn't heard of this before seeing this trailer and hearing this is going to come out, but conceptually looks interesting, and the trailer looked like it could be solid. It's one of those movies that it's kind of like the Gone Girl tone of visual style. This very kind of drab gray looking film. But yeah, that's Where the Crawdads Sing. That'll be out this Friday in theaters.
Kind of missing the mark. Could have been a cool musical idea.
Honestly, this story seems like it would be easier to adapt into a musical than Stranger Things.
Well,
Perfect
Stranger
for a
Things
stage play.
Did not say that it would be a musical. Not all stage plays are musicals.
Fair. Very true. Very true.
I want to see a Demogorgon sing.
Oh my
Where do the
gosh.
crawdads sing in the upside down, and now they're here? Combo package.
So the last movie that's coming out this week is The Gray Man, coming to Netflix. So this is the latest from Joe and Anthony Russo, the Russo brothers. The plot of this: when the CIA's top asset, his identity known to no one, uncovers agency secrets, he triggers a global hunt by assassins set loose by his ex-colleague. Generic spy thriller plot ready for you there. This stars Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, Jessica Henwick, many more. All-star cast here. Written, the Russo brothers co-wrote this with Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, who have written all of their MCU movies with them. There is very
It's
strong
Captain America Winter
potential
Soldier
here,
without the superhero elements.
but with the mustache on Chris Evans.
So good.
I think this is what everyone's looking for here. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think this movie looks a little bit generic, but with the cast and the people involved, I'll probably be checking this one out. And it's on Netflix, so that is.
You don't even have to leave your home.
It was the
Exactly.
only title that could have been The Color Man and not be offensive.
The Violet Man.
Ooh, yeah, that'd have been all right. That's another good one. I guess if you get into the weird off spectrum, the magenta,
The Fuchsia Man.
the magenta man, the pink man.
I texted it to you guys, but Chris Evans literally says in this trailer, "You want to make an omelet? You want to make an omelet? You've got to kill some people."
Look,
And it's just like,
You want to make an omelet? You got to invent the food item omelet.
I know you're going to be talking about Lightyear coming up here in our quick hits, Brian.
Yes.
But I personally am happy for Chris Evans that he's taking roles like his role in Knives Out, like his role in The Gray Man, because he spent a decade playing this
Goody two
morally
shoes.
goody two shoes Boy Scout character, and I'm just happy that he's getting these kind of roles that are polar opposite of Captain America. So
Yeah.
good for him. I'm excited to see him
I've
in
seen
this.
some of the previs before the movie's release, and Chris Evans comes on screen. He goes, I want to say two things. I hate America, and I fucking hate children." And you're like, this
what he
isn't
stands
Captain America. He's evolved as an actor.
True.
So that's The Gray Man. That'll be on Netflix this Friday. And that is it for news this week, everyone.
How wacky, super wacky. Thank you, Brian, for that. Let's move on into our next section, which is what we've been consuming with our quick hits. Well, gentlemen, this is quick hits, the part of the show where we talk about what we've been consuming. I'm going to start this week. And
it's Gentle Minions, I believe.
It's
Oh no.
I did not see. I did on that note. Minions has made so much money, and I was.
You guys doubted. I was like, Minions month.
I was talking to a family.
You wanted to.
I was talking to a family not too long ago in my job interaction with the family, and I had seen that this young lady had a ticket stub to Minions: The Rise of Gru. I said, "Oh, you saw the Minions movie. What'd you think?" She said, "I loved it. I saw it 3 times." I said,
That's why it's making so much money.
I said, "That's probably why I made $200 million past couple weeks."
I'm not gonna lie. I ranted to my wife about how Minions is so successful and Lightyear is just not making any money. And then we proceeded to watch the Minions Rise of Gru trailer, and she laughed the entire time. So I will probably end up seeing Minions Rise of Gru at some point, to my chagrin.
She didn't have like the look
The
of
things you
confusion
do for love.
that me and you had when we watched the Minion.
No,
Rise of Gru
I
trailer, where we said,
told her.
what is happening.
I told her our reaction when we saw the trailer in the theater, that we just looked at each other and we were like, what the fuck is this movie about? But no, she eats it up. She eats it up.
Yeah, well, I did not get a chance to see that movie. It's on my watch list for sure. No, you know me.
No, it's not.
Brian, it's on the very bottom of the watch list. He didn't say where it was on the watch list.
For the it's if this podcast doesn't continue to be successful, I will change my entertainment course, and I will have a Christian watches all the Minions movies endlessly. Over and over again, and talks about
it's a minute by minute podcast for all the Minions movies.
Oh my God! Wait, Minion by minute? Okay.
Oh my God, Brian!
All right.
And
we're breaking this
show.
here.
We're breaking
live.
We're breaking this show up, and we have a much better marketing idea.
Minion by minute. Brian, copyrighted by Pop-O-Holics. No one else is allowed to take
That's
that.
how copyright works. Somebody's
Right,
copyright,
exactly.
whatever
We haven't spent.
We locked it in.
Definitely how it works. No, I mean,
Take note. The date is.
Patent pending.
Oh man!
and we put the video in an envelope and mail it to ourselves. Copyright and done.
Signed, sealed, delivered.
No, you all know me. I'm going through I'm going through like buying old movies on super high premium format mode. That's my mode right now. So there was a Criterion. There was a Criterion sale. That we all took part in, 50% off for some of Criterion's collection, and I was able to pick up a couple films, and I picked up some other ones as well. And I wanted to pick up movies I hadn't seen before because I'm trying not to just collect my old DVD collection in 4K mode. I didn't go too ham on Blu-ray, but Blu-ray 4K, it seems like a format that will last. It's like I don't even have all the equipment to make full use of this, so it's a format I can buy and then work towards enjoying more and more. So I talked about Some Like It Hot last week. Excellent 4K done by Kino Lorber. Kino Lorben? How do you say it?
Kino Lorber.
Kino Lorber. I'll learn how to say it one of these days. But Criterion had a sale, and I picked up 2 films, Mulholland Drive and The Red Shoes. I have not watched The Red Shoes yet, but I did have a chance to watch David Lynch's most popular movie as decreed by so many David Lynch fans. Brian, co-host of the Pop-O-Holics, I think saw local to me a showing of this movie. Loves David Lynch, and I'm a person that I like Eraserhead. I like Twin Peaks. I have David Lynch likes in my life, and so I told myself, "Hey, I gotta see what this is all about. This is Mulholland Drive. This is his best movie. We've saved it up, and I've bought it on the best format possible."
And you enjoyed it so much that it blurred your camera.
I was just going to fix it and move on, Chris. Give you a clean edit.
I'm sorry.
So I got this movie, and I actually had The Red Shoes of Mulholland Drive, and I went up to Erica, my fiance, and I said, I got 2 movies here. Got the trippy movie. You're probably not going to like this one. I don't know if I'm going to like it. but it's one of Brian's favorite movies. And then I have something that definitively everybody who's seen it says it's absolutely an instant classic. And she says, I like Justin Theroux. Let's watch Mulholland Drive.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
Yeah. Surprised me.
Does she like Billy Ray Cyrus, though? That's the real question.
When he's in this movie, I said, that looks a lot like Billy Ray Cyrus, but what the fuck is he doing in this David Lynch movie? And then confirmed.
It's incredible.
So Mulholland Drive is 2001 David Lynch's masterpiece. And it stars Naomi Watts, Laura Herring, Justin Theroux, Gene Bates, Dan Burnham, and as we mentioned, Robert Forster is pretty highly billed. He is not in this movie nearly enough, in my opinion, and many more, including Billy Ray Cyrus and Justin Theroux. And this movie is, it's kind of hard to talk about the plot, but essentially a bright-eyed young bushy-tail girl comes into town searching for her dreams of becoming a famous Hollywood actress. Meanwhile, we also have an accident that happens at the beginning and a woman who's lost her memory. These two characters meet and they try to figure out what the hell is really going on. Do we ever find out? I don't know. Without spoiling this movie, I will say there are parts and moments that I think are timeless, awesome scenes. And the scenes in and of themselves are worthy of talking about and worthy of some of the most interesting David Lynch-y kind of things that are really great and some of the things I really love about David Lynch. But this movie accentuates some of the things I absolutely loathe about David Lynch. And I found myself coming off very not hot on the movie. Overall, I watched it not knowing much about the history of the movie. And I thought, there are parts of this first 2/3 that I like. Certainly, I like more of the consistency in the back third, but they also don't feel connected. And it kind of feels like this wasn't supposed to be a movie. And then I had this thought and I looked into it and no, it wasn't. It was a pilot for a TV show that then became a movie. And I should not be able to watch the movie and go, it is painfully obvious that this thing feels a little stapled together. And it really I guess it's time and place of how people saw things and when they saw it. But I thought to myself, I just don't know what reality I'm living in, that this is like David Lynch's best movie, because I really like Eraserhead for what it is, because it's all David Lynch. And parts of this feel a little Twin Peaksy. Some of it feels super Eraserhead. Some of it is ebbing and flowing between this, but I found and maybe this is part of the style and the mode you got to get into, but there's literally a moment in this movie. Most of the movie is clouded with dialogue that I could only describe as Tommy Wiseau level.
Oh my God, no.
Not based in any reality of how anybody talks. Of like, oh my God.
You're killing Brian.
Oh my good. No, I think
on air.
I actually think he would agree with this as a purposeful
I think it's
thing.
Intentional to some degree with where the movie goes.
But it's so much of it, it's oppressively just without anything changing for so long, so much of that dialogue. And then you get, there's literally a moment in which someone is acting and the performance this person gives while acting in the movie is one of the best acting parts of the entire movie. And you're like, David Lynch, you know how to make people act. And I get this dreamlike thing that happens in your movies, but it is so unbearably uninteresting to me from a dramatic tension point, and even thinking about it, it doesn't make it better, even reading through the theories. The act of watching it is painful for as long as it goes on, and it's like there is the capacity to know how to string these things together. But to me, it was. I'm glad I watched it. And there are, again, highlights that are totally worth seeing the movie. And we talked about a couple of them. I won't point them out for spoiler reasons. I want people to enjoy it. I think if you're a David Lynch fan, you might get a lot out of it if you haven't caught it. But something tells me this is kind of the movie that gets people into David Lynch. So, I mean, it's hard. As someone who's seen some of his other work, it to me does not feel coherent or perfect in any way. And I thought I was alone, but I saw a lot of critics that I tend to align with also extremely give this a very low ranking. I was on Letterboxd, actually. I'm trying to update that profile and log movies more. And I found that I wasn't alone from a critical standpoint of being someone who just is like, nope, didn't get it, didn't vibe with it. as much as there are some really good highlights. But Brian, I know you love this movie, so I want to give you a chance to talk about what the things that you love about it and what your reading of maybe my first watch through kind of describes.
No, I mean, I can't really argue with you with what you said about this movie. The fact that it was a pilot that turned into a TV show does feel obvious at times tonally, where how the movie is just kind of all over the place. There's characters who we have a moment with, and you see hints of other plot lines that probably would have been happening that they just never come back to, and end up really kind of focusing the movie down onto our two main characters, kind of, plus the other plots that are happening. Even on multiple watches, I do think it's difficult, just with all David Lynch movies, to pin down exactly, quote unquote, what happened here. I think it's more of a sense of things, and kind of, as you were texting us about, recognitions about systems and power, and kind of how these things affect industries in very abstract ways, obviously. But yeah, I've talked about it before. I would not recommend this as the starter point for David Lynch movies for me, because of what you're saying. The back third of this movie is essentially a different movie than the front 2/3. And that's just the kind of thing that's a big barrier to entry. Something like Blue Velvet is what I would say is kind of the best entry point. It's a very coherent narrative. It happens right before Twin Peaks and kind of feels like a prelude to Twin Peaks in a lot of ways. But Mulholland Drive, it has one of my favorite scenes in cinema of all time, hands down. And it gets me every single time, and shows what is so incredible about David Lynch and about the performances that he can capture, and the tone and the vibe that he can set.
Jolando.
It's, we won't get into spoilers, but there's a scene that, and I think the silliness and the tone of the movie around it really actually makes these movies work better. Because of that, you brought up the one scene where our main character, who you may, with how she acts throughout the course of the movie, think like, oh, she's probably just not a good actor. You know, she's kind of like so naive, and
partly because the movie convinces you that she's not a good actor in real life. And I think that's very powerful. Yeah, I agree completely. And there is something to it.
It's incredible.
There is something to when that moment happens, how powerful it is, because of what you made me sit through for an hour at this point in the movie.
Yes. I will say, it's funny that you went between The Red Shoes and this movie, because David Lynch is notoriously obsessed with The Wizard of Oz. And all of his movies are kind of playing on The Wizard of Oz, as well as this thing with the classic kind of blonde actor, brunette actor, and the tropes and the underpinnings of what that actually means. And this movie takes it to a particular conclusion.
It's very sexy. I did not expect how sexy this movie gets out of nowhere. Like, really hot. Like, it is so close to, I was like, does this become a porno? Is this about to become a really radtacular porno that I'm about to watch?
Radtacular.
It's pretty awesome.
But then there's later moments of where you're much more conflicted about the sexuality being shown on screen as well. So it's interesting how we have that conflict as well. But yeah, I kind of agree with you that I think because of the incredible moments in this movie, it's why it stands as Lynch's kind of masterpiece. But I agree that I don't think it's a great entry point. And because it kind of, as most of his movies, they reward multiple viewings, this one almost demands multiple viewings because of how extended the elements of the movie are. I'm very much speaking around things here, but it makes sense why you'd have to rewatch this movie and try and figure it out.
I think even more so, like, if it was all, and it's a great movie to talk about, and I've had so much fun talking to different people that have seen about it, and that is definitely a joy of it, and probably why in our circles it's celebrated, and I think for that it's great. But I think it's frustrating because it's a very easy movie to follow for 2/3, and then the last third is almost incomprehensible to everything we've seen. It makes you question everything and have all these thoughts, right? And that's annoying because if the movie was all confusing, kind of that, like how Eraserhead can be sometimes, where it is all kind of that joy to have it. It kind of feels like it's stapled on, and it's like shot completely different too. And I think all that is actually intentional. It's just it's a very frustrating movie to get through for certain viewers, I think. So I'm not mad I watched it, and I certainly got a great gift for you for Christmas.
I cannot wait for that. I just want to say that I am a huge fan of David Lynch, and I find that the more you watch his stuff, I think all of his movies are kind of, like I said, there's the Wizard of Oz stuff, but he really, I think the not being able to pin down exactly what happens in that kind of ambiguity is very much his bag, and he relishes in it. And for me, I like seeing how the implications of the way he views the world expressed through narrative. I think that's kind of what it's about, like very much dream logic, very much playing with time and space stuff. And it's like you said, the movies will always affect you in some way, whether it be positive or negative, and there's stuff to talk about afterwards, which is what I love about movies.
Yeah, certainly. And yeah, it's something. I think ultimately what maybe frustrates me the most is that I kind of get the themes, but I don't actually get the emotion of the story, and I'm not taken on a journey of like understanding through that. It's almost like through all the imagery and stuff, I'm like, all right, you get it. I get it. Hollywood, it will chew you up and spit you out and doesn't give a shit about people, actually. Like, I like get that idea, but then it's like all the other things that make me get there emotionally aren't really there, and maybe that's just something I gravitate towards more with movies. But certainly it is a unique film, unique style from a unique director, and there are parts of it that look absolutely great on this Blu-ray. There is absolutely no special features. There is a nice write-up and a booklet with some shots from the movie, as well as like a prelude to talking about what the movie's about, which is included. So the Criterion set is good for if you want a really high quality version of this movie. I wouldn't say it's particularly a standout, but certainly does not look half bad. But no special features, like none whatsoever. But that makes sense because David Lynch doesn't give a shit, and this movie made nothing when it came out, so kind of adds up. But yeah, that is Mulholland Drive on 4K Blu-ray, also available on video on demand and other sources. But that is a Criterion collection. If you're looking for a lot of special features, this literally doesn't have none of that, so that's kind of a disappointment. Very excited to watch The Red Shoes and get back to y'all on what I think about that. Moving on into something a little more simple, a little more clean. I saw on Hulu, Erica had seen it before. She goes, I think I liked this movie. Literally, that happened so much where Erica's like, I want to revisit a movie I'm pretty sure I liked. And, I'm like, all right, let's go on with it. This is The Descendants, which is directed by not George Clooney. He's directing more and more now lately, but not this one. Alexander Payne, you may know him from a film that I love, Nebraska, his big hit Sideways. And many others, kind of known for making these dramas, these kind of modern dramas, sprinkled in with comedy. And this stars George Clooney in our main role, Shailene Woodley, Amara Miller, Nick Krause. We also get Shaggy in later. What's his name? It's frick. How come it's not showing up on the top cast? I even like when I saw him in the movie, I literally Matthew Lillard. That's
Matthew Lillard. Yep.
Matthew Lillard has a small role that he's pretty good in. And this movie follows George Clooney, who is a lawyer who is part of a family in Hawaii that owns a significant part of one of the Hawaiian islands that his family is going to have to give up and either sell off or figure out what they're going to do with it because they're not allowed to keep it because it's so much property that they've inherited from their descendants of King Kamehameha, actually. And so while that's happening, his wife of over like a decade at the very beginning of the movie goes into a coma. And so he's dealing with his two young daughters, working through the wife in a coma while having this greater plot line of what to do with this land. And I gotta say, Alexander, I almost call him Thomas Paine. He is not Thomas Paine. That is a very different person. Alexander Payne makes really small movies with really big emotions. And contrary to anything that I said about Mulholland Drive, this movie could not be more opposite. This is a very much a standard film about people going through stuff. But I'm not sure how much experience you all have with his movies and how much you like him as a director. But it's amazing to see these directors that are just really in the pocket of what they do. And this movie is so watchable while still having definitely hints of character, knowing how to use the talent of actors they have. George Clooney has always been someone that I just love, and like most things, he's just so lovable. And he's not the most lovable guy in this, but he's a very flawed character. But watching him and his daughters work through all the different elements that happen during this like experience they're having, it's very moving. It's very touching. It's very complicated emotionally. Like it takes some core human emotions and puts you in their shoes in a really complicated place where we find some of our characters and their history. And it's just a nice little watch. I could recommend this to anybody. It is. There are moments that are very, very funny, but ultimately it is a little bit of a bittersweet film, and ultimately just a nice little watch to have. I can't say it's extraordinary, but it is beautiful to be on one of the islands of Hawaii where they shot it. So it is very pleasant to see everybody's wearing Hawaiian shirts. I think at one point Erica even said, "Does everybody just wear Hawaiian shirts in Hawaii? Is that a real thing?" But this is very good. I don't know. Have any of you seen The Descendants?
I have not, no. Have you, Brian?
I haven't. I was just looking through Alexander Payne's filmography. I have not seen any of his features. The only thing I've seen is he did a short in Paris Je T'aime, which we covered way back.
I saw that as well when I was reviewing it. Yeah, no, that would be like the only thing you saw. Yeah, highly recommend Nebraska. Sideways obviously was of the time his probably most successful film.
Citizen Ruth is a movie that I heard great things about and I bought on a whim on VOD, and I haven't watched it yet, but I think I got to come back to that because that's one he's known for as well, apparently.
Yeah, it just makes very like condensed dramas. Chris, have you seen anything from Alexander Payne?
Outside of Paris Je T'aime, no.
Yeah, this is definitely a director I'd say very watchable, a very great for mixed company as well. I think they're kind of like really heartfelt 4-quadrant adult movies. So maybe not maybe 3 quadrants. You're missing the child quadrants.
The children.
Definitely there are suggestive contents, but it's not overly, obscene or anything. But definitely it just in his films I find are just easy recommends. Even Nebraska that's like black and white and has like an unlikable protagonist. I just have never been disappointed by one of his films. I don't think I've ever gone like, wow, like, Paul Thomas Anderson level of, wow, I'm blown away by what I just saw. I can't even fathom it. This is my new favorite director, but just as far as pumping out really solid, contained, emotional family dramas, I'm really excited every time I see one of his films. So this is a recommend for me. It's on Hulu right now as of the record. So if you don't know what to watch and you want to pop something on that in your mixed company, I think this is a great thing to pop on. Really good recommend. That's The Descendants, which is streaming on Hulu and available on video on demand. And it was 2011 was when it was released. So yeah, Brian, let's move on into you. Everybody's been dying to hear what you think of Lightyear.
Well, okay, before I get to Lightyear, I just quickly want to give my Stranger Things 4
okay, yeah, sure.
opinions. Chris talked about it last week and also wrote up an excellent review over at careforspoilers.com that everyone
Thank you,
should check
Brian.
out as well. I'll be honest, I hadn't finished episode 7 of volume 1 of this, and the beginning of episode 7 felt a little cop-out-ish to me. I was not completely happy with, there were some stakes set up at the end of episode 6 that they immediately kind of counteracted.
Yeah, I remember you saying that it was like a video game, when last you spoke about it.
It did, and it did feel that way. By the end of the episode, I appreciated the turn that was made without getting into any spoilers and where they went with it. The back half of this, me and my sister were watching this together. We watched an hour of the first new episode, and then we pretty much binged the last 3 hours, like last half hour and then the last episode. We couldn't put it down. And this is great. This is great television. I mean, I wasn't sure they would be able to get me there emotionally, but I feel like nearly every character gets their good emotional moment here. And if they haven't, they've gotten it in previous seasons, but we really get a bunch of great emotional stuff. Things that also you maybe have seen coming in some ways are kind of clarified here. And some of our characters just cannot catch a break. One in particular that from the jump and just coming back to it, it's just like, oh, this is where we started. It makes perfect sense. But I think it's all been really well done, and I like where the show ends. I like how they're kind of tying everything we've seen previously together. And Chris noted that the show has fallen into some tropes about particular characters and what happens to them that I won't get into specifically here. But this has some amazing moments. Some
every season,
moments.
Brian. Literally every
I know.
season.
But I continue to be a huge fan of Stranger Things and am going to be eagerly waiting for Stranger Things 5 in 2024, I believe.
It's going to be exclusively a stage play.
Only on stage. Yes, right.
Brian, I have to say, I have no creative stake in this show at all. But I'm just such a huge fan of this property, and I've grown to love this property so much over the last 6 years. I'm just super pleased that it resonated with you in this way. I was a little nervous when you got to the beginning of episode 7 and you said it feels like a video game, but I'm glad you ended up coming back around, and I'm glad it ended up hitting you emotionally in all the right ways. So I'm excited to watch season 5 with you. It'll be fun.
I will say one of our characters, and I think it largely works, but left me conflicted. I feel like there's kind of not a dark turn, but a ruthless turn from one of our characters that I'm interested to see how they continue it in going forward. It's understandable to some degree, but
can you say the character's name? I don't think it'll be.
I don't want to say anything.
Tell me off mic then. We'll talk.
I'll tell you off mic. But yeah. So
off mic, our other podcast, where we get down to the nitty-gritty.
Pop-O-Holics off mic. Spoil everything.
The problem is you can't hear shit.
Welcome to Pop-O-Holics off mic.
Chris, I think
we got to get back on mic.
My problem is similar to one of your problems with Thor: Love and Thunder. That one of our characters does a comparable amount of damage to who's supposed to be the villains, and we're supposed to be like completely on board with it.
Gotcha.
I think you know what I'm talking about.
I sure don't.
But yeah, that's for the best. So that's Stranger Things 4. But I also, for family movie night this week, we actually went to the theater, which is a rare one for us these days, and saw Lightyear. This one, I had seen kind of very mixed things about Lightyear. I know the critical reaction was not super hot. So I went in with very measured expectations for this thing. The first 30 minutes of this movie kind of blew me away.
That's what I've heard.
Was nearly, had I been at home watching it by myself, I would have been probably straight up bawling. I was fighting back, like being ridiculously emotional. The animation, I'll say, is incredible. People are talking about this movie as deserving of going into streaming. All of these movies look incredible and deserve to be seen on a big screen because the animation is just astounding. It always is with this Pixar stuff, and no exception here. This is Interstellar for kids with a Buzz Lightyear rapping. The emotional bits, I've heard criticism that's valid. If you dig into it too much in terms of our characters' decisions, it may not make sense. But being ostensibly a kids movie and dealing with the concepts that it's dealing with, I think it's done so effectively well for this first 30 minutes that it's introducing you to this concept. It's also kind of a meditation on how fast life goes by and the people around you and what it means to watch them grow over time, and conflicting motivations of wanting to help them on one level, but also be there for them. I don't want to get into any specifics about the plot of this movie, but I was not expecting kind of the big existential themes that are caught up in this movie and how it kind of just throws it out there from the beginning. The back half of the movie, I think, is relatively generic, but still solid. I think this is a very solid movie, very worthwhile watch. The very end of the movie, it feels like our characters, if not our characters themselves, the humans in our movie have learned the exact wrong lessons from the course of what actually happened throughout the course of the movie. So it's like, if we were to watch the sequel to this movie, I think I would be completely against the politics and the messaging of like what's actually happening at the end. But as it stands, I think this movie got kind of a bit of undeserved flack because of the rollout strategy of Disney Pixar, putting Turning Red and Soul both straight to streaming, which are extremely worthy movies in their own right that should have had a theatrical release as well.
One of which Brian and I reviewed here on the podcast. So go check out our review of Turning Red.
Yeah. A movie that I was openly, loudly bawling during the
too.
end of. I thought Lightyear definitely had the stronger first act in the back half, but worthwhile family movie here that looks incredible.
Very cool.
I'm glad you really at least enjoyed the first 30 minutes of it, Brian. So wait, have you seen this movie, Chris? I haven't, unfortunately, and it's been something that I've really wanted to get to. I want to see it with my wife, though, and with us having to see Thor and Love and Thunder, it just kind of like got pushed back. So I'm part of the problem when it comes to Buzz Lightyear's revenue. But like you, Brian, I definitely think that all the problems with this movie came down to the marketing and the precedent that Bob Chapek has set in regards to the value of Pixar over the last 3 years. So I honestly think that this movie is going to find its following once it comes to VOD and people actually see it and like let go of the fact of like the convoluted framing device of how the creators are trying to get you into what this is, but from everything I've heard and from what I know about the film, I think the narrative on its own is really good. I'm excited to see it. I think it's a Interstellar for kids is probably I love that you described it that way. It's probably the best way to describe this movie.
And I just had another. It's Interstellar meets something else, and it was just there, and I've lost it.
The Martian, maybe.
What was that?
The Martian.
Trailers did make it look a lot like The Martian.
Oh no, it's kind of Top Gun Maverick meets Interstellar.
You got Christian.
I'm interested.
A little bit. I don't know. There's a lot of the stuff that I've watched in the last few weeks feels a bit like inspired by like Stranger Things too. We'll get into that in Thor: Love and Thunder on Wednesday, but yeah.
Chris, I was so excited to hear your thoughts on a movie I haven't seen yet. We'll get into more of that on Wednesday. It's kind of maybe a little bit of what grind my gears right now. So it's some.
You know what really grinds my gears?
You know what really
Lindsay
grinds.
Lohan.
Come on. What are you doing, Lindsay? All right, so that's Lightyear. It is in theaters now. I can't wait to see it as well. I've heard like the same mixed things, but I also think from what I've heard, I will also enjoy it. So we'll see. All right, let's move on into our final section proper with Chris. You're bringing us the community feedback.
Welcome back to the community feedback section, loyal viewers and listeners. In this section, the Pop-O-Holics take care of some housekeeping. We go over our upcoming Throwback Thursday episode over on our YouTube channel. We talk about any poll results from our Twitter feed. And then, of course, we read any written 5-star reviews from either Spotify or the Apple Podcast app. Don't have any reviews to go over, but we do have poll results and our Throwback Thursday episode to go over. So let's start with the poll results. For our viewers and listeners here in America, last week was the 4th of July, Independence Day.
Yeehaw!
Yep. And regardless of whether you felt as though it was a holiday worth celebrating this year, we won't get into the politics of that. The Pop-O-Holics sent out a poll, which was, which movie is the best 4th of July movie? And your options were Jaws, Captain America, and Independence Day. Go figure. 53% of you that participate in this poll said that Independence Day is actually the best 4th of July film. I don't agree with those results. I think Jaws is probably the best 4th of July film. But gentlemen, how do you feel about these poll results?
We gotta consider what we're answering here. Is it the most honest Independence Day movie?
Yeah, because that's Jaws. That's Jaws
100%.
But what do we aspire to as Americans?
I was watching.
Yes.
I have to say, since you've brought that up, on my watch of Jaws this year, it was scarily topical in a way that I did not appreciate.
Didn't we reviewed it, right?
We did review it last. Was it last year or a couple years ago? I think it was a year ago.
I think it was last year because I have it on 4K.
Spielberg spotlight.
As do I. But watching it this year, it hit differently with things that are currently taking place. Anyway, Brian, continue.
No, yeah. But yeah, I think Independence Day, it is what it is. It's this hyper patriotic thing that, yes, in terms of the politics is problematic, probably, or at least I would understand if someone pushed back against the politics of it. But when you get to that rousing speech by the president, it's hard.
We will not go quietly into the night. We will not go without a fight. Today we celebrate our independence. And you're just like, God, it feels fucking good to be a citizen of this earth. Like, not even just America, like a fucking human being. And you get the president who flies the aircraft, and all, like it has the dichotomy of having the president and also this hobo that used to be like a pilot that sprayed stuff, and he's like, I fly.
Sacrifices himself. It's incredible.
It's like, yeah, and it's perfect because the working man sacrifices himself for the overall capitalist system, and it kind of makes sense. So I'm all for it. I like it. I
Christ.
like it a lot.
We have Goldblum and Will Smith doing amazing work as well. It's a very
I won't
funny
disagree
movie
with
on
that.
top of everything else.
If we give the alien a cold, you see.
Christian, do you feel as though these results are accurate? Based on what you said, I assume so. Yeah? Yeah,
I mean, so Independence Day is about being proud of the country you live, uniting with your fellow man despite maybe some disagreements, which has been rough the last couple of years. But the ideal is that you unite with those you disagree with because you're all American.
Earthlings.
You blow some shit up because that's part of it. And this movie delivers on all of that. The patriotism, the proud for and that's the aspirations of America, is that we idealize, like idealistically provide liberty and freedom for all. Practically, that's not really how we've executed, but the idea,
in concept,
the spirit of what we would like as true Americans is to spread that liberty and justice for all. And this movie gives you that feeling.
And
when fighting
at
back
the end of the day,
ugly aliens,
doesn't it really come down to actions just aren't as important as kind of the ideology or the spirit of something, right?
Well, the thing that Independence Day cheats, which is
and I'm being snarky,
part of what unites this country, is that we had a common faceless enemy that we could kill indiscriminately to protect our liberty and justice. And I can't think of anything more American than villainizing an entire species. They shot first.
The people who are welcoming and hoping that the aliens get absolutely murdered.
This is true.
They literally are like, they come out and try to do the the fucking thing from
Close Encounters.
And they get fucking blicked, bro. They get fucking nerfed, bro. And then
and let's not forget that Independence Day is directed by one of our favorite directors, Roland Emmerich, right?
Yeah.
Oh yes.
The best in the biz.
What if the moon fell? Someone has
Roland Emmerich, Steven Spielberg. What do you? I don't know. Anyway,
close. It's close.
Thank you to everybody who participated.
Roland Emmerich's best film is better than like maybe a third of Spielberg's catalog.
Would you consider this to be his best film, Independence Day?
Roland Emmerich? I'm pretty sure.
I can't think of one of his films that are better than this one.
Yeah, no, this is his best movie. I'm pretty sure. I think he's got is it Volcano or Dante's Peak? He did one of them, right?
I can't remember.
I mean, Zilla. So
Brian, don't even start.
We know one of us is a defender on this podcast of the classic Zilla.
Stargate. Stargate's a solid
Brian,
movie.
I don't think Christian and I have seen Moonfall yet. Brian, have you seen Moonfall?
Actually. No.
So none of us have seen Moonfall.
Hey, Jeff
Who's
from
to
Films
say?
at Home says one of the best Atmos tracks.
That doesn't make it the best movie.
But it does mean it has
I didn't
a great
remember
Atmos track.
It does. It takes advantage of great Atmos.
You can hear the moon fall.
A good speaker system.
In 8 different directions.
Anyway, moving on Thank you so much to everybody who participated in our poll. We always appreciate you taking time out of your day to engage us on Twitter. You can always find us on Twitter at Pop-O-Holics. This coming Thursday on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Pop-O-Holics, we are going to be releasing our Throwback Thursday episode. We're currently in the middle of re-releasing our Studio Ghibli month. And this week, I think the timing couldn't be better. We are re-releasing our discussion about the Tales of Princess Kaguya, which stars James Caan, who recently passed last week, tragically. That man had a hell of a career. He's in my favorite movie of all time, The Godfather.
Gravitas.
He does indeed bring a lot of gravitas.
Rest in peace, James Caan. My sister knew of him as the guy from Elf.
Yeah, he's the dad in Elf.
Yeah,
he's had a sprawling career of various different roles, and he'll be missed. But
on that cheery note,
you can catch our discussion about the Tales of Princess Kaguya, which we recorded at the very beginning of a horrible pandemic. It's just
one of the most visually stunning movies I've ever seen.
It really is. Yeah.
By the way, yeah,
completely agree. So go check that out over on Thursday on our YouTube channel. Again, youtube.com/Pop-O-Holics. Remember to subscribe and like the video. It helps us out a ton in regards to the YouTube algorithm. And of course, subscribe and like this video that you're currently watching if you're already watching us on YouTube. Christian, where else can our loyal listeners and viewers find us online?
Well, they can follow us. We got a link down in the show notes or podcast description, whichever platform you're on. That will link you to all the social media. Shout out there is to subscribe on YouTube and to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast player of choice, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you like. Rate us 5 stars there. You can email us at popoholicscast@gmail.com. And gentlemen, where can people find more of our individual work on the internet? Chris.
Loyal listeners and viewers, you can find me on Twitter at Chris Conkling, talking about all things nerdy, television, movies, video games, comics, collectibles. If it's nerdy, I'm talking about it. And then you can find my nerdy ramblings on a monthly basis over on carefulforspoilers.com.
My boy's a writer.
I'm a writer now. Excelsior!
I was going to say, yeah, is that a Stanley?
That's a terrible Stanley impression.
You can find me over on Twitter at TruePopaholic, making terrible dad jokes and talking about Thorgies. Most recently.
Which is also tied to my Twitter account. So thanks for that, Brian.
And you can find my band at Midnight Satire. Midnight Satire, augmented reality EP, streaming on all your favorite music platforms of choice. And we have a fun music video, a Not So Serious Man music video. Check it out on the YouTube channel for Midnight Satire. It stars these 2 beautiful blokes and this one person, me. And again, email us at popoholicscast@gmail.com. What are you consuming? What are you getting into? And as one of our listeners, our loyalist of listeners, wrote in, Christian, do that TikTok of the week corner, and we're going to close out the show with it. Christian's TikTok of the week.
Do you truly, in your heart of hearts, truly believe that this is a human being? This,
Without a doubt.
without a doubt,
Yes.
this is a dolphin fetus.